Okay, I'm going to show you how to disassemble and reassemble the transmission off of a Cadet RT65. Now you'll notice the chains and all, everything's loose, shafts, gears, and that's because I don't have the other cover. Which is right here. You see how thin that metal is. I want you to see that for a reason. And we'll set that to the side. Okay. Now, first of all, notice these washers. They have to be on there because the housings are so thin and they're not hardened metal that the gears would literally wear through them. So we're going to take all three of those off. This gear I can pull off. Notice it says T right there for top. If you notice, the teeth right here are flat, but if you notice also on the bottom side the teeth are beveled. That's to aid in meshing in with the gears with this one right here. Okay, so we're going to take that off. Next, I'm going to lift this gear off. It's flat on top, but as I flip it over, you notice you've got a groove in here, and that's made to fit over here. This is where one of your drive chains go. Now to take this off, I'm going to have to lift this shaft right here up and this at the same time. That will give me some clearance where I can just rotate that right out of the way. Now, there's no sense in taking that off because I actually have another one right here. This was the old one. If you look, there's needle bearings inside here on both ends. See if you can get a good look at them. Part of the main flaws of this transmission is that they have this entire thing packed with grease. Well, with needle bearings, when it's resting against something flat, you can't get the grease up in there. Now you pre-grease them, you pack this full of grease and then you shove the shaft through. The shaft pushes out a lot of the excess grease and you'll have a little indentation right in the middle between those two bearings that'll hold some grease. But over a time period, you can't get any other lubrication in there. So I'm going to change eventually. When I put it all back together, I'm going to change it to a oil lubrication like you would in a differential or a normal transmission. I'm going to still pack these full of grease and everything to get them started. Now you have those on several bearings. On several gears. If you notice this one, the reason I replaced it, it has this ear right here. As you come around, those are broken off. And that's because someone left a few things out the last time they were in this. When I bought it, it was a little bit hard to shift, and apparently whoever took it apart did not really know what they were doing. So, now we're going to take this next gear, and you notice it has the indentation, and that's so that those teeth can sit down in there like that. Okay? And it rests right on top of there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use this old one for a minute to give you an idea. I'm going to set it to the side right there, and then I'm going to set that there. Now, being old and senile, I may forget, but having a little trouble getting that down there. But we'll just let it sit there so I know. And keep this out of the way. Now, I'll lift this off. You notice there's a flat washer in between those two gears. I've done that on purpose. I'm going to set this here. This comes up. Notice how it's notched. Okay, so this one will slide over. You have to get it right position just like that. Okay, and then you'll have this other gear down here on the bottom that will set like that. Flat washer on top. This shaft comes up. Now these grooves, this shaft is exactly like this other shaft here, and I'll show you that in a minute. But these grooves are for snap rings. Okay? So, a flat washer goes here. Notice the short side is down, long side's up. I could actually put some snap rings in right there, which I do have. I just haven't done it yet. Okay, and that would hold it all together. I'm going to set that to the side right there also. Now, to try to get another, I'm going to lift this shaft up. If you notice, this shaft is just like the one there. Now this one is pitted and roughed up because water had gotten this transmission. These transmissions are notorious because they're not sealed very well. If they're left out in the rain, the water runs down in them, and you get rust in the bearings. You get rust in on this. Luckily, this is where the bearing, the gear rides, and right here's where the gear rides. Nothing rides on this area, so I'm good to go there. And of course, I've got a little bit of grease on my hands, so all these hairs and everything sticking to it. So I'll pull that up. Now, if you remember, this was the one with the T on it. It goes on top on the long side. Okay? I reach down in here. This gear looks like it has a 7 right there, but it also has a raised indentation there. That will rest just like this. And of course, there's a flat washer. And this is the short end. If you notice how it fits perfectly right there, and it'll go right there, flat washer, and it'll go in that hole. Now you have this. Whenever you operate the transmission, I'll try to hold this one down. Whenever you hear that snap, and another snap, that moves this gear up and down to mesh with these other various gears to change it from forward to reversed, neutral. So what we're doing is, I'm going to, let's see if I can get this lifted up here just a second. Notice how this gear slides up and down on this shaft, so it needs to be well lubricated. Now this, if you notice, it has a lot of detents right here, little rounded grooves. And what happens is, right here there's a hole. You see I've got it packed full of grease right there. There's a hole that runs to the center, but on this side there's another hole that's drilled straight through. Just like they start here, they drill it straight through. And in that hole there rests a stiff spring and a check ball that fits just this size. Now, I'm going to, see how I move that up and down. Okay, and I'll go back the other way. Again. Whenever this is a major problem because water gets down in there, and we'll put rust in here. It'll wash out the grease for the bearing and the spring. Take the shaft out. You just push it and pull it all the way out. You may have to get you a screwdriver or something and a soft end hammer, dead blow hammer, knock this pin on out. But don't lose the check ball or the spring. You may have to get a O-ring pick and lift them out. And you want to wash them off good and look and see if there's any slight coating of rust or beginning to form or any debris in there. You want to clean them up, polish them up with some Scotch-Brite or super fine sandpaper. Just roll them around on it till you get them nice and shiny and smooth. Okay. Then you need to clean these parts off with some carburetor cleaner, brake cleaner, kerosene, diesel, whatever, something to clean them, wash all the sand, grits, or pieces of metal out. Then you put a little grease down in the hole in there. You slide in the spring. Then you gently put the check ball in, and you start to insert the shaft or the spool back in here. Now, as it comes in, it's going to hit that check ball, and you're going to have to take either a brass tip hammer or a soft tip dead blow hammer and tap it like that to get it to push that spring on down and go in one of these detents. On this other side, you notice how this is flat. On this side, you've got a groove, and there's grease in it. Right here, let me see if I can see. There's a little nipple that sticks out, and that actually slides up and down in here. So when this is in place, that will shift this mechanism up and down on the spool. Okay? Now, we want to, I'll show you this also. If you notice this shaft right here, there's a bearing down here. Whenever you put this shaft in, when you take it out, you'll take a dead blow hammer and you'll hit on the end of the shaft. And remember, something soft, you don't want to mess up the ends. Or a piece of wood and put on it and knock it out. It'll knock this bearing out right down here. And then you can take it off that shaft and replace it. When you go to put it back in, same way. You just slide this back in here and you gently tap it back into place till it's flush. Okay? This is the smaller gear. It goes on bottom, larger gear on top. So we'll slide that down. Now, here's something else I want to show you. This spacer goes underneath. Okay? And what this is going to do is it's going to help line it up and hold it in the right height. So now I'm going to slide this up, slide this back on, put this, back underneath. But I also, if you remember, I have to get this little nipple right there in that groove. So I'm going to have to move this back and forth till I get it in there. Then wiggle that around and it just dropped down in the hole right there. So now I'll have that back. I'm going to start reassembling this. Let me show you this one real quick before I do. I'm going to lift it up a little bit, take the chain off. Sometimes when this is with these chains, they're not going to be very tight, so you may have to move them a little bit to get them where you want them. Okay, I'm going to have to actually loosen this up and take that chain loose off the larger spur gear and lift this up. This gear is basically the same. It's got a place for it to rest down in there. This part's, whoops. Notice now this one's a little bit different. Whereas most of these other sprags or gears have a needle bearing in them, this has a bushing on both sides. Okay, and this is short shaft. It's the same distance on either side. So you put that there. Of course, we have our flat washer. We're going to put that back in. Alright, back down in the hole. Now, whoop, I may have a problem here because I didn't get my chain back on. Let me put my chain around my larger gear. And now I have to tilt this over, get it around there. Everything's back in place, so when I turn this, this turns. This shaft here is your actual wheel shaft. Okay, this larger one back over here is for your tines because they're going to take a lot of beating, so it has to be a lot stronger, more beefed up. Okay, now let's make sure and put this flat washer back down there because we don't want to forget that. And let's go ahead and get this one back in here. That's wrong. I got a flat wash already on it. I'm going to slide this back in. Okay. We'll put that flat washer there for right now. Now, I'm going to put this gear right here and line up. Sometimes a lineup bar will be helpful, and you'll see why. I'm going to, so this gear meshes with that gear, which is on this shaft. Okay. Now, I'm going to see if I can get here. Take this shaft. Now, before I put all this back together, I'm going to put some snap rings on here and here after I get this together because that guy left them out. Okay, so I'm going to put this back down. Remember, you always have to grease those bearings, and I've got to get them to spline up. There we go. It dropped into place. Now the next gear is this. You notice it's beveled on both sides. So we're going to slide it down, and it fits on here. You can't get these gears, or should I say these two gears, mixed up. Even though they're the same size and they've got the bevels on the teeth, this one has the recess in it, plus the slots are a different size, so you can't get them mixed up. Now I'll slip this. Whoop! I've got to put. This is the different flat washer because it's large enough it goes over the shaft, unlike the other ones. Okay, then I'll put this one in here. Make sure I've got my good. I almost put my bad one on there. I got to lift this back up again because you have to get it lined up, or it's not going to go back down. Now we'll drop them both back down. They're good to go. The chain's on that. And I'll show you again. This is where the chain rides on this one, on the center cog. Okay. Now we'll take this and set it back in place, and it'll mesh up with this one. We'll put our flat washer on here, our flat washer on here, and our flat washer on here. We'll go ahead and set this old one back. The reason I'm doing this video, I'm a mechanic with multiple degrees and a stack of certifications about that big. I'm a master mechanic. So I work diesel, hydraulics, computers, it doesn't matter what it is. I've got certifications for it. But here is the blow up of how this transmission looks. Now, I also studied architecture, so I learned how to draw mechanical illustrations such as this. This one wasn't really done as I would have done it. So this is very confusing. Even if you try to follow the straight lines, it's very confusing. This is why I'm doing this, because there's not another video that shows just the bare gears. There's a couple videos on YouTube, but they're showing all a little tip of a glove, rubber glove there, that the whole thing is full of grease, so you really can't see how the gears and the bearings are. I hope this has helped you out. I'm going to give a little, now remember, all this is going to be loose some, but I'm going to try to hold it in place. It'll be in place better once I get the other side on, because that will hold all these shafts in alignment. But I'm going to try to hold it like this and see if I can turn this so you can see some of the gears turning. You can see how this drive, let's try to get this, how that does. If I shift, let's go. And it goes a little bit different. I have to try to hold this down, that one down, because it's, here we go. Now, this is a total section. Now this one actually has every gear in here turning, and it's turning your augers also. So each detent does something different. That noise you're hearing is because I'm trying to hold all these shafts in place. But hopefully this will give you a good idea. You've got the one turning your wheels. You've got the one turning your tines. Let's shift back again. We'll go back that way, and we'll see what happens. Now this is all the way down. I'm turning this shaft, and what's happening? None of the gears are moving. Now you're hearing noise because, like I said, everything's loose right now, so I don't have it perfectly straight. But none of the gears are moving because it's in neutral. The only gear moving is the one on this shaft. And we did it once. Let me see if I can get everything. Way down in here. It's a little difficult to hold all this. There we go. Let's see if I can get everything lined back up and back in place, because the with it loose like that, I need about 6 hands to try to manually simulate this. So anyway, as I turn this, you'll see more gears turning. You've got the idea anyway. I've gone through several different positions, and it's hard to try to do, like I said. But that's what happens when you're shifting this lever. You're moving this yoke up and down, moving this shift gear up and down, and it's meshing down here at the bottom on the bottom gear, and it's moving this up and down, whether it's meshing with these gears, this, whatever. And that's how you do or put together the Cadet RT65. please like this, as it's really been a pain. I tried to do this one-handed because I didn't have any help, so now I've actually got my phone put on a old camera stand with electrician's tape holding it in place, so that's why I don't have all the close-ups that I normally would have. So, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you again, and goodbye from the old grumpy mechanic.